Would you look at that? It's cold, it's rainy, but that is Arrowhead Stadium. And for the first time in 221 days, we are going to have a National Football League game played tonight. It's the Chiefs. It's the Texans. It is the kickoff of the 101st NFL Stadium. And this is a game day edition of NFL Now on NFL Network. From our newsroom in Los Angeles, I'm Andrew Siciliano, and it is the understatement of the century to say that we are happy to be here, and we are even more thrilled that you are here with us. And I will concede, there were moments, many of them, where during the last 5 months, I didn't know if we would be sitting here having this conversation. But we are. Let's enjoy it. We're out to Jeff Judea coming up in a couple of seconds. Let's get our insiders in here, however, to open up this show. Tom Pelissero and a wide-awake Ian Rapoport. Gentlemen, happy game day to both of you. If you don't know what I'm talking about, tweet it. All right, or look at the Twitter. No, I'm not. I made the paper. Regardless, let's talk about the game and the injuries and who's going to play tonight. Tom, Brandin Cooks, the wide receiver, is a legit game-time decision. What do we know?
Well, Andrew, Brandin Cooks officially listed as questionable because of a quadriceps injury that he has been managing throughout the course of training camp. He is, as I reported earlier this morning, a true game-time decision. He may work out pregame before the inactives are due 90 minutes prior to kickoff, but he has improved here over the past 24 hours, and so it sounds like things are trending in the right direction for him to be on the field. Remember, the Texans traded a second-round draft pick to bring Cooks over from the LA Rams after the DeAndre Hopkins trade, part of that new-look wide receiver core around Deshaun Watson. Also, Randall Cobb, of course, set to make his Texans debut, and David Johnson in the backfield, Ian.
Yeah, I would agree with that. There is a lot of optimism that Brandin Cooks will be out there. We'll see how effective he actually is, though. Quad injuries for receivers are difficult. But the bigger picture for the Houston Texans is this is the first time we're going to see this receiving core, this offense, without DeAndre Hopkins, one of the best receivers in the NFL. The belief from the team is that this unit, this group, which is varied and different and multi-talented with Cooks and Will Fuller and, of course, Randall Cobb and Kenny Stills, that this will be better for Deshaun Watson. Allow him to really just find the open guy instead of focusing on one receiver, that because they are so multi-talented, so many different options, that it will be a more efficient offense. We are going to see tonight, but that is one thing that is going to be fun to kind of monitor and watch.
Absolutely, and very much a different offense for when last these two teams met. No DeAndre Hopkins, no Carlos Hyde, so a 1,000-yard receiver and a 1,000-yard rusher. They're the first team to replace both 1,000 and 1,000 since the Eagles did it with LaShawn McCoy and Jeremy Maclin. Also tonight, a lot of eyes on how these two teams, the Chiefs and the Texans, Tom, will handle the pregame and how they will respond to the social justice conversation that has been had in this country the last few months. What do we know?
Well, Andrew, there have been discussions in recent days between leaders from the Texans and the Chiefs in terms of their players, like Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes, and others, about the potential of having some kind of a joint demonstration pregame about racial injustice and also something that could show unity. Now, those conversations are ongoing. The plans, to my understanding, remain fluid, but certainly they understand here that they have a spotlight to try to make a statement about everything that has gone on in this country in recent months. Again, we may not see the two teams handle pregame exactly the same. What I can tell you is the Texans, who recently put out a video that delivered a very strong message on the subject, have some clear goals in mind. Among them, bringing the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act of 2020 to the Senate floor for a vote. That is one of the action items that they have pushed, the likes of Kenny Stills, Michael Thomas, other guys who are very involved on the Texans side of things. This is a conversation that's been going on for months. No surprise that it's a conversation that will continue with the kickoff game.
And I was kind of curious as we went about this, guys, what some of the coaches think, and really what it sounds like from the Texans, from the Chiefs standpoint, that Andy Reid and Bill O'Brien are really just saying, whatever the players decide, we are for. We're behind you. However you choose to handle it, you are our guys. We will stick to that and support that. And really, that has gone on around the NFL. Going to be a fascinating pregame situation, pregame scene on Sunday. And then when some of these other games happen across the NFL, you're going to see really the entire landscape of everything be taken over from some of these protests and shows of unity and otherwise. You're going to see players stay in the locker room for the anthem. You're going to see players kneel jointly as far as from a team perspective. You're going to see all across the map, but no doubt this is something that team leaders and coaches have been talking about. Teams have been talking amongst each other. In other words, talking with your opponent, hey, what are you going to do? What should we do? Really some unprecedented things going on in the NFL and have nothing to do with what happens when the whistle blows.
As one coach said yesterday, it's not about who does what, it's about why, and he hopes that fans at home can understand that and have that conversation. We are 7 hours away, roughly, from kickoff. Ian Rapoport, Tom Pelissero throughout this show. Gentlemen, thank you. How odd does it sound to say 7 hours away from kickoff at Arrowhead Stadium, where we now join Jeffrey Chadiha as we see what it looks like with Kelsey and Tyrann Mathieu, and for now an empty parking lot with a lot of cones. Now, there will be tailgating and there will be fans in that building tonight. They're going to have to bundle up and stay warm and stay dry and wear masks, but 22% capacity, Jeff, which is just under 17,000 fans. The Chiefs worked through this when they had fans in for the scrimmage a couple of weeks ago. Now they're going to have to deal with the weather. Set the scene there for me, what this is going to be like tonight.
Well, a lot of protocols in place here, Andrew. You mentioned the cones in the parking lot. People will be parking every other space. When they go into the stadium, they'll be going through specific zones. They just can't bounce around and just bounce from the stadium any way they want to. And once inside, obviously, they'll be wearing masks and social distancing. They'll have certain pods that people have bought tickets to stay within, but they will be kept apart, and they will be trying to do their best to make this work.
How are the Chiefs, as we see these cones here and the rain falling on them, handling, forget the protocols, Jeff, just the hype, the fact that this is the start of their effort to run it back and do it again?
Yeah, going back earlier in the offseason, there was a lot of talk about 5 Super Bowls, 7 Super Bowls. Players like Tyreek Hill and Chris Jones were really feeling themselves. But you haven't heard that talk in the last few weeks. It's really been more about grinding, committing, taking this day by day. They understand that tonight is going to be very emotional. They've gotten their rings. They raised the flag a couple weeks ago at that practice. They'll put a banner up tonight, and there'll be a lot of emotions involved in that. But this team, if they want to run it back, it starts with understanding that last year was last year. Patrick Mahomes has said that. Frank Clark has said that, and that's where they stand right now.
And on the other sideline, you have a team that has not forgotten. As a matter of fact, I assume it's all they looked at and thought of during these 6 months when we were locked at home, how they exited the playoffs last year, Jeff, in that building behind you after blowing a 24-0 lead.
Yeah, the Chiefs understand that they're not going to see probably the same thing they saw last year in that wild playoff game. For one, J.J. Watt had no tackles and no sacks in that game. When Patrick Mahomes talked about that specific playoff game, he said, look, the difference between that game and the game they lost earlier in the year, the Texans, is that they had opportunities that they missed in that first game, and they took advantage of them in that second game. That's what they want to be about this time around. Look, they're going to see a different defensive coordinator in Anthony Weaver. They're going to see a new offense with, Brandin Cooks is going to be out there, David Johnson, Randall Cobb. They realize it's a whole different look to this team now. And they're not coming in here expecting to blow this team out by 20 points. They expect a tough game.
Jeff Chadiha there in the rain in Kansas City. Stay dry, stay safe. We'll be right back with you throughout this show. And by the way, for people who think that there's somehow some smaller or lower level of enthusiasm tonight, let's put a tweet on the screen for one of our colleagues here. Sean Kovalakis, one of our great producers who lives here in Los Angeles. He's on the way to that game. This was yesterday. Shocked by how many Chiefs fans are on this flight. Limited attendance, again, roughly 17,000, but that has not stopped Chiefs Kingdom from traveling in. Fascinating to see this evening, Jeff, what this will look like.
Yes, it will be crazy. It will be crazy. In fact, there's fans already walking around out here who've been out here for about 8 or 9 hours before the parking lots even opened up. They offered us breakfast at one point, Andrew. So they're going to be loud, and they're going to be crazy. This team has not had the chance to really celebrate this championship in a long time. Obviously, COVID took away that opportunity aside from a parade that they had back in February. So Andy Reid is expecting the Arrowhead to be loud. It won't be full, but it will certainly be loud.
Yep, as loud at outdoor stadium as there is in the NFL. Thank you, Jeff Gidio. We'll be back with you coming up in a little bit. In the meantime, the Chiefs put this on the social media to get everyone hyped last night. And that is retweet if you're ready. Yep, they are absolutely ready. More on this game throughout the show here. In the meantime, let's get you around the NFL to look at some other games here and look at a game in the NFC North. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers swept the division last year. They won 13 games, but are we talking about them enough ahead of their opener?
I think the beauty is that there's a lot of conversation about other teams, whether it's Tom and Tampa, or the teams that were really solid last year with, New Orleans and San Francisco, and Seattle and Philadelphia and Dallas with Mike and what they've done to their roster. I like where we're at as far as kind of flying under the radar, even though we went 13-3 last year. So we got a chance to, to prove what kind of team we are starting the season out on Sunday, and I look forward to the opportunity.
Certainly does, as does Ezekiel Elliott. He and the Cowboys are going to fly into Los Angeles late Saturday afternoon to try to put last year behind them. Last year where they fell apart in December and didn't make the postseason. This year, new coach, new attitude, new expectations.
I think the sky's the limit. Look from top to bottom, every position. We got a lot of very good guys. And a great group of guys, more than anything. And I think we're gonna be pretty good this year.